from the Washington Free Beacon. Reporter Adam Kredo taking some time out of his day for us. Got a great piece you want to check out. Quinn campaign wonders, Black Republicans like Jewish Nazis. This piece just blew my mind. Adam, good morning to you.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing very well. By the way, compliments. Excellent piece. Very, very well written. Gets right to it, and quite an eye-opener as well.
Yeah, quite interesting, and I appreciate that. It really is an eye-opener, particularly because it doesn't seem like anyone in your neck of the woods has really covered this at all, and it's a pretty important story given the nature of the material here.
Yeah, let's head back and explain what happened here. It starts with a column from Neil Steinberg in the Sun-Times, who I stopped paying attention to years ago. That's how I missed this initial column, in which he says that black supporters of Bruce Rauner, Republican, are like Jews who collaborated with the Nazis against their brethren. Basically, Bruce Rauner, the only way an African-American in Illinois would support Bruce Rauner is if he was being paid, he or she were being paid by Bruce Rauner. That's the gist of the Neil Steinberg column. And, okay, take it from there. What happened?
Yeah, so Steinberg puts out this column, which in and of itself, I think, raised a lot of eyebrows to compare conservative voters to Jewish Nazi collaborators in and of itself is quite shocking. But then the campaign for Governor Pat Quinn starts tweeting this article, promoting it to its followers, telling them it's a great read and they need to check it out. And this isn't a once tweet. This is several times that they beam this out to their followers and then very quietly actually remove these tweets. They delete them. And from my reporting, what I've heard is that this followed outrage from the Jewish community that the Quinn campaign would be promoting this type of material, and not just promoting it, but promoting it over the Passover holiday last Friday when Jewish people were celebrating that. So that came as quite a shock to them, and they very quietly removed these tweets. We wouldn't have even seen the evidence of it if it wasn't for a political website that stores political tweets for posterity's sake, so we can see evidence of them kind of backtracking and scrubbing this.
Adam, do we know for sure how long those tweets were left up before before someone deleted them?
Yeah, it's a good question. It looks like they were up there at least a day, and some hours went by before they were removed. But the website PolitiWhoops, which tracks this, doesn't have an actual timestamp of when precisely they were deleted, or at least I didn't see it on there when I checked it. But it's interesting because after we ran this article, I tried to go to the Quinn campaign, and the intern or staffer who picked up the phone let slip that no one in the communications department could speak with me because they were all in a meeting.
Isn't that funny how that happened?
About this.
Yeah, that's crazy how that happened.
It is, right.
Now, part of Steinberg's column, a main part of it, focused on Bruce Rauner's attempts to court an African-American community leader and publisher.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that angle on things, because that's what really gets some of the hyperbole going.
Right. Well, that's what seemed to set off Steinberg, that he was not only trying to court the black community, but court leaders in there and try to work with them. And I think what's so fascinating about this is that to get from a politician courting what would be a natural ally in the community, business leaders and others who would resonate with his message, that you get to, well, this must be tantamount to Jewish people who collaborated with the Nazis, because there's no way that any black leader would possibly want to have anything to do with the campaign unless they were getting something out of it. It's a very shrewd and odd political observation.
And it's somewhat of a pattern, Adam Kredo with us from the Washington Free Beacon, freebeacon.com for the story. You can also find it linked up through our website, too, 1440WROK.com. I hope you don't mind I drop Noah Rothman's name from Mediaite. He was on the show yesterday. He wrote a piece about this Democrat freak out over Republican outreach efforts, whether it be Paul Ryan, whether it be Rand Paul, whether it be on the issue of the criminal justice reform, whether it be on school choice. Bruce Rauner is a big school choice guy, a big charter guy. That's one of the reasons he's got State Senator James Meeks in his corner and some other African Americans from the Chicago area. Anytime this outreach is done, Democrats really reflexively freak out because it's chipping away at the coalition that's helped them win for all these years. And they go right to, Neil Steinberg went right to where he went.
That's right, he did. And, sadly, it's not uncommon. We see this a lot in the political discourse, resulting when you have nothing really to criticize your opponent about. You start to bring out these Holocaust and Nazi metaphors, and they're universally offensive, and there's really no way to win when you start to bring these out. If anything, it really reflects on the writer and the people promoting it, that this kind of rhetoric could somehow be employed and used. And the African-American community leader in question in Steinberg's piece was Hermine Hartman, a well-known publisher, a very active community leader. So I think to bring this type of rhetoric out really hits to offensive points in both communities very hard, and the pushback that I've already seen on Twitter from the RNC and others, they're really capitalizing on this, because they should be when that type of rhetoric is used to single people out. It's very shocking, to be quite honest.
Well, and if you want to put the offense aside and just look at it as garden variety politics, nothing says I'm really, really desperate than a ploy like sending directions for people to read more about this, understand more. You're not talking about issues. You're not talking about the problems that this state has, which are myriad. You're trying to go right for pitting person against person.
That's right. It's very cheap in terms of the political discourse, and sadly, I see it often here in D.C. Politicians who employ Nazi rhetoric to try to communicate a point. And almost universally, it's a loss for them. There's no way to do that. You got to stick to the issues and talk substance, and that's not what they're doing here.
Adam Kredo with us from the Washington Free Beacon, freebeacon.com. The story, Quinn campaign wonders, black Republicans like Jewish Nazis, ? One of the reasons I think we need a pretty good explanation on this, Adam, is because it might be a sign of things to come. I don't know if you know, Governor Quinn has hired as his chief campaign strategist, his campaign manager for his reelection bid here, the guy who ran Bill de Blasio's campaign in New York City. So you've got a guy who was behind a very divisive, very combative, very class warfare, very far left mayor now. He won the election in New York City, who's going to be running the Pat Quinn campaign. So even if Pat Quinn didn't hit the send button or the tweet button, someone in the campaign did, and should we know whether or not that's the way this campaign is going to be run this year?
Well, look, that's what you see here, and this is evidence of going quickly to divisive politics, trying to divide communities, divide voters, and pit them against each other, rather than talking about the issues that are important to people.
I know you talked to sources, as the piece said, some Jewish community leaders and one Chicago political strategist who said they don't think they've ever quite seen something quite so far as what Pat Quinn's campaign did in embracing that kind of rhetoric from the Steinberg column. Now, we've seen a lot of things here in Illinois and specifically in Chicago, so that's saying something.
I think that really is saying something, just because the imagery here is so clear-cut in terms of comparing these black conservative voters to Jewish Nazi collaborators. I mean, it's not anything you really have to parse to get the meaning out of it. So that's what's so shocking. If the staffer or person or whoever tweeted this out had read the article, you only need to read a couple paragraphs in, they would have known the words and rhetoric that was employed in it, and still they fired ahead with those tweets.
You know, you pointed this out earlier, and I'd like to give credit where it's due. If it weren't for outstanding reporters like you, a lot of us would never even be aware this sort of thing was going on. I get the idea that if there were an R by Governor Quinn's name, this would be a lot more widely reported than it's been.
I think that's absolutely true, and that's another piece of this that we need to look at. If it was a different writer with different politics and a different campaign, especially with an R in front of it, a Republican, this would be huge national news. We'd see it on TV, but it looks like only we at the Free Beacon are covering it, and nobody in your neck of the woods is. I would think that reporters would be calling the Quinn campaign repeatedly to try to get comment about this.
So let me ask you that, Adam Kredo, Washington Free Beacon, freebeacon.com. I know when you called, everyone was in a meeting. Were you promised a call back? Were you promised a statement at all from the Quinn campaign?
Of course I was promised a call back. I'm still waiting on it. So if the Quinn campaign is listening, I'd love for them to get in touch with me and explain this.
Yeah, I think you probably picked the wrong show to have any of them hear it. Adam, we really appreciate, the excellent writing, the great piece, and you taking time out of your morning for us. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. I really appreciate you having me.
Have a great day.
Thanks,
There's Adam Kredo with the Washington Free Beacon.